In the summer of 1865, a man is walking home on a red clay road in Alabama. His jacket is Confederate gray, faded, patched, hanging loose on a body thinned by prison rations. His boots are nearly gone. He has walked most of the way from a prisoner of war camp on the Mississippi River, 600 miles behind him, and the only thing pulling him forward is a question he is afraid to ask. When the war began, he had 7 children. He does not know how many are left. At the edge of a worn-out farm, he stops. The fences are weather-beaten, the crops are thin, and then he calls out, one word, one name.
Sarah.
Sarah?
Sarah?
Sadly, Sarah whispered that they lost Mary, David, and John. This man was my great-grandfather. His name was Whitfield Anthony Vandiver, and this is how he survived the century that tried more than once to erase him and his descendants. To understand the man on that road, you have to go back over 30 years. Whitfield was 7 years old when his family moved to Cherokee County, Alabama, from South Carolina. His family built a new cabin on the ground that still bore the overgrown traces of Cherokee fields. Many still choose to ignore that this land once belonged to the Cherokee Nation. In the 1820s, Turkeytown, situated near present-day Center, Alabama, was a major hub for Cherokee leadership. A boy at a tree line feeling the thrill of a new start and an unease he cannot yet name, his first lesson in how power moves people, like furniture. 13 years later, in a churchyard that smelled of pine boards and beeswax, 21-year-old Whitfield stood at a plain wooden altar beside Sarah Jane Black. The minister tells everyone that marriage is an honorable estate. There was no finery, a handful of family on rough benches, a frayed Bible, a cowbell waiting in the yard.
Build your home on faith and hard work, and you'll weather any storm this world brings.
He had no idea what kind of storm was coming. Seven children later, this couple will discover the storm this world brings.
At 34 years old, Whitfield Vandiver walked out of his Alabama farmhouse wearing the crisp uniform of a first lieutenant. 3 years later, that officer was gone. In his place was a nameless, freezing prisoner, slowly starving to death inside a Union military camp. The relentless machinery of the Civil War systematically ground down the men fighting it, stripping away rank, freedom, and identity in equal measure. To understand that collapse, we have to rewind to the summer of 1861. Sitting by the light of a single oil lamp at his kitchen table, Whitfield spread out his enlistment papers. He signed his name to join the 9th Alabama Infantry with high hopes. Like many officers, he believed the conflict would be brief, decided by honorable leadership and decisive battlefield victories. But that signature locked his family into a grueling war of attrition. The industrial nature of the coming conflict would eventually hollow out those early ideals. By early 1863, the crisp officer's coat was a memory. Whitfield sat in a muddy Confederate camp near Chattanooga, warming his hands over a smoky fire. His term had expired, and upon re-enlisting, he found himself demoted from first lieutenant to a common private. Looking around at the exhausted, youthful faces of the boys serving alongside him, Whitfield realized a harsh truth. In a drawn-out conflict, previous social standing meant absolutely nothing. Surviving the cold in the next fight was all that mattered. And that survival became a matter of pure math as the conflict shifted around them. This tactical map of the Chattanooga region shows thick, expanding lines converging on the area. The Union rail supply routes delivering General Ulysses S. Grant's reinforcements straight into the theater. As those supply lines thicken and completely engulf the Confederate positions, they reveal the mechanics of modern warfare. The conflict was becoming a problem of industrial scale, where supply chains dictated outcomes. Whitfield's loss of rank mirrored the collapsing state of his army. The tightening Union noose showed that sheer manpower and logistics were actively grinding the Confederate forces into the mud. That numerical reality crashed down on Whitfield in November 1863 at the Battle of Missionary Ridge. He crouched behind a rough dirt parapet with the 19th Alabama Infantry, leveling his musket downhill, fully expecting a Union charge straight up the slope. But the attack didn't come from below. Without warning, Union soldiers commanded by General Ferdinand Vanderveer crested the ridge directly beside and above them. Panic ripped through the Confederate line. Within minutes, the defense collapsed. Men dropped their rifles as a Union sergeant ordered the provost guard to move the prisoners out. Whitfield surrendered his musket and his independence. He entered the ranks of the captured, where the Union state would now dictate his movements and his survival. That captivity took him north to Illinois, into the sprawling Rock Island military prison. By the freezing winter of 1864, the environment alone was as deadly as any battlefield. Whitfield shuffled through drafty wooden barracks, his frame thinned by old battle wounds and severe hunger. The sour smell of unwashed men mingled with the freezing wind coming off the Mississippi River. Every day, guards subjected the men to freezing roll calls, a direct application of the prison system's bureaucracy. When Whitfield stood in the cold, he was a name and a number etched into an endless, cramped column. Surviving Rock Island required a completely different kind of endurance. There were no enemy charges to repel. Instead, prisoners had to outlast systematic starvation, strictly controlled rations, and the constant threat of disease spreading through the bunks. The prison system relied on these administrative tools to warehouse thousands of men. Through the steady rhythm of roll calls and the limitation of rations, the Union maintained control over a population it no longer had to face on the battlefield. Whitfield finally earned his parole in mid-1865. He trudged homeward under the blistering Alabama sun, his stooped shoulders and ruined boots kicking up red clay, a physical ruin mirroring the devastated landscape of the South. When he reached the weather-beaten fences of his farm, he called out for his wife, Sarah. Their embrace in the yard was a desperate, breathless moment of relief that he had made it back at all. But his return exposed a devastating void. While he endured in Illinois prison, extreme deprivations on the home front had claimed the lives of 3 of their children. The true toll of the conflict was measured in the immense physical suffering required to simply survive the prison camps, and in the catastrophic voids waiting for the men who finally made it home.
A farm gone thin and a country in ruins. Most stories would end here. His didn't. 18 years later, in a county office lined with ledgers, a clerk unrolled a land patent bearing the printed name of President Chester A. Arthur.
I fought, lost children, and plowed this ground near all my life. It's something to see it written that it's truly ours now.
Think about what that paper meant. The boy who watched one government take land from the Cherokees, who then fought against that government, but had lived long enough to watch that government put his own name on the land. Land is not the only reward for Whitfield's perseverance. After returning from the POW camp, Whitfield and Sarah had 4 additional children. Their youngest, Mannin, was born in 1873, and he was my grandfather. The war and its deprivations made 50th anniversaries rare in Alabama, but Whitfield and Sarah weathered the storms and made it to the end of the long road. In addition to the loss of his 3 children, the war left many widows of his closest relatives. Forget the past, and you're doomed to repeat its mistakes while throwing away everything it taught you. Yet it's sad and perversely entertaining to hear people dismiss history outright. Our world is modern, they say. The past is totally different from today. I trust my gut and family folklore. Studying the past of my ancestors is a waste of time. This video is one in a series of brief biographical sketches of family members. Please subscribe to this channel if you enjoy this type of storytelling, even if these aren't your relatives. These videos cannot capture every aspect of my relatives' lives. Books do a better job of documenting details. However, I use the latest technologies to make major historical circumstances and events in their lives more vivid.